People think success is going to make life easier, and what you have to understand is success is going to make life harder. So if you think success make your work easier, it gives you more work to do. So you just gotta, don't operate on this principle of like, oh, if I can only get to this milestone, then it's going to be easier.
Here we go. Welcome to another episode of ThoughtWave. Dr. Dinin, so good to see you.
Good to see you too, Chris.
You look a little tired, my dude. What's going on?
Yeah, first week of class. Today was the first day of classes. And I always forget how much work it takes to prepare a class. And I teach 3 of them. So work to prepare 3 classes. And this is like my 10th year of teaching at Duke. So you'd think I would have gotten better at it. But it's like the longer I do it, the harder it gets. Isn't that weird? It's like, isn't that weird? You think becoming an expert in something should get easier. But it's like becoming an expert actually makes it harder. And, and I think this happens a lot for entrepreneurs. I feel like they're always like, oh, if I can just do X, Y, Z, then this is going to get easy. But it's actually like success breeds more work. Anyway, I'm complaining. Sorry, I shouldn't be complaining. How are you?
Hey, no, this has been popping up a lot. And you know what? I must be tired too, because guess what? We got to do the intro.
Oh, sorry.
We missed the intro, didn't we?
The intro.
Look at us. Look at us. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, for those of you who are new listeners, welcome to ThoughtWave, where we discuss tips, tricks, and hacks for audience builders, entrepreneurs, and people who just want to do things. I'm joined by Dr. Aaron Dinin. And, this has been popping up a lot, okay? Entrepreneurs that I've been working with, consulting for, coaching, they've been talking about being exhausted, just like you, tired, anxious, etc. And I've been digging into what is going on, and it's been crossing my mind to ask the question, is work-life balance actually good for entrepreneurs? And is it possible? Is it achievable on top of that? But I want to just start with the question, is it actually good for entrepreneurs? I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of people coming across your desk all the time with these issues. What's your take?
No, it's bad.
Okay.
End the podcast.
Done. Get back to work, everyone.
Get back to work.
Get back to work. Get back to work.
It's difficult in the sense that it's not entirely realistic. And, I think we need to pull back kind of the curtain on this. The people preaching like, oh, you got to have good balance in your life, including myself, by the way, are people who, starting to achieve traction, have more kind of flexibility and stability. Once you've kind of, it's not saying work is easy, but once you've achieved some sort of success, to look back and be like, oh, you know what? I probably burned the midnight oil too much when I was younger, and maybe I didn't have to, and I should have had more balance. But yeah, look where you got to, and you got there through that work. So I don't know if it's honest to sit here and say, you know what? You 20-something should really figure out how to make sure you're only working a 40-hour work week on your venture.
Well, one of the things that you said to me a little while ago, or I think it was actually to one of our clients who's building their social media audience, and people always ask you, how often should I post? How frequently should I post? And your answer almost always is, well, as much as possible, because when you post, you drive learning. And the more you post, the more learning you get, and the more chances you figure out what works and what doesn't work, more importantly. And so you start taking those learnings, and that snowballs into more and more success. And so if I'm taking that paradigm and looking at it through that lens, it is super important to put in as much time and effort as you can or want into something, so that you learn as much about whatever it is that you're building, whatever project you're working on, and that will aid in your speed of figuring out if your venture is going to take off or not going to take off. So looking at it through that lens seems to be like, yeah, absolutely. Throw caution to the wind, throw work-life balance to the wind, and let's start working. However, on the flip side of that, if let's say you've got a boss, okay, and this boss is saying, work harder, work longer, no fun things for you, you don't get to go out to dinner, no playing your guitar, I like to play my guitar, no doing the art you love to do, no watching that show because you should be working. If you lived with that person all the time, you would just be like, no, I don't want to do this. And you'd want to resist and revolt against that. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are effectively living with that person who's just browbeating them. And you know who that person happens to be?
Yeah.
Themselves. And they're just like, I feel lazy. I feel like I don't want to do anything. And I'm like, yeah, because you're living with somebody who is got you chained to a stone, is making you crack rocks all day long. And who would want to work for somebody like that?
It's this funny thing that one thing that people have to understand, and I guess this is what I was alluding to at the beginning of the episode, is people think success is going to make life easier, and what you have to understand is success is going to make life harder. So if you think success, and by success I mean whatever you're made, right? If you think oh, I just got venture capital funding, woohoo! Now it's going to be an easy treat. Oh yeah, I just scored this big client. Now it's going to be easy treat. No, because what happened is when you get that venture capital funding, right? You have promised that venture capitalist, if you give me $5 million, I'm going to deliver this thing. Well, now you got to go deliver the thing that's really hard to do. So think about it from that perspective, right? So achieving what you're trying to achieve doesn't make your work easier. It gives you more work to do. So you just got to don't operate on this principle of like, oh, if I can only get to this milestone, then it's going to be easy, right? So that's a fundamental mistake. And from there, what you have to remember is, so I love this point, this is kind of a tangent, but I'll get back to this. Remember that success makes things harder, is that I always love people say that I want to be my own boss. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be my own boss. Well, the problem is, like, you're a terrible boss. Like, when you're your own boss, you've got the worst boss in the world. And, and you're talking about it right here. It's because when you're your own boss, you can't escape your boss. And think about how lovely it is to go home and be away from your boss and be like, ooh, I can just sit on the couch and not worry and think. But like, if your boss is sitting in the room with you in your head, then your boss can be like, dude, why are you sitting on this couch? You should be working. And so it's really hard to escape your own boss. And so then the solution here is, well, I don't want to call it the solution, but what I found works for me is work-life balance such that it is, quote, unquote, having family, doing other things that aren't my entrepreneurial work and my entrepreneurial ventures. And make no mistake, by the way, I know I'm a faculty and professor, and therefore I must, what do you mean this dude's an entrepreneur? No, like I've got lots of venturing that I do, including like this podcast or content creation, right? It never stops. When you're entrepreneurial, it kind of never goes away. But what happens is my non-entrepreneurial work makes me way more efficient in my entrepreneurial work. And so this is how I encourage people to think about it is, like having kids, for example, like they just take a lot of time. I love my kids. They take a ton of time. And it's not optional. I don't have this be like, well, you know what? I'm not going to go to my kids' dance recital. At least not in my mind. It's, it's not optional to skip my kids' dance recital. It's not optional to not put my kids to bed. It's not optional to have dinner with my family, right? These are all, I'm not changing. So if I know I have to be out of the office at 5 o'clock, then guess what? I don't fool around on social media all day. I mean, I guess I do fool around on social media all day, making social media. That's a different story. I'm not nearly as up to date on current events as I used to be because I don't spend time just kind of browsing the news and seeing what's going on in the world. And, here's more importantly, my work, I don't perfect things in the way I used to, right? When I had more time, it's not that I got more done. It's that I would tinker and tweak and do little minor things. And now if I got to get a video out every day, and it's 5 o'clock and I got 20 minutes till 5, then I'm not going to spend another minute trying to make this video perfect. I'm going to finalize this video and get it posted so I can get home to my kids. And I found I've gotten enormous success.
You don't let good be the enemy of, or great be the enemy of good.
Correct. So I think that's a way of thinking of work-life balance. It doesn't necessarily prevent you from doing all the things you have to do. And I think it actually makes you a more efficient entrepreneur. And that's, I think, a good way of thinking about it.
Going back to the being a good boss part too, and being your own boss, a lot of people say, hey, well, my customers are my boss. And like, that's maybe kind of sort of right to a degree. But I actually think one of your main jobs as an entrepreneur is to figure out how to be a good boss to yourself first. That's absolutely the most important thing, because if you're not a good boss to yourself, meaning you're not good at setting your own goals, your priorities, you're not good at figuring out how to make trade-offs or those kind of things, you're not going to be a very good boss to yourself, and your company is not going to grow. And if you're not a good boss to yourself, you're never going to be a good boss to other people. And what you're talking about in a lot of ways comes down to, are you, as your business grows, because I want to get back to what you said about success makes things harder, but as your business grows, are you looking at money and time as resources, or are you just looking at them as numbers in your bank account or numbers on your watch? Because I see a lot of entrepreneurs who, because they started out with no money, with no venture, etc., they still act like they have no money or whatever, and so they'll pinch pennies when in essence they don't have to, and they could be using those pennies to buy more time. And I've got a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs who do this well, and they're hiring babysitters on more regularity than a lot of people are. They're hiring virtual assistants in the Philippines or whatever through Upwork to help them get the mundane tasks done that aren't causing them any extra leverage or benefit in their business for them to do the thing. And so I think they're also like, as things become more successful, as you grow in your company, you have to really figure out, well, how am I going to use that money? How am I going to use that VC to actually accomplish something important that doesn't involve me always being the one who's doing the work?
Yeah, it reminds me of growing up. My parents, and God bless them, they had 5 kids. Having 2, I understand how expensive. I had no idea how they successfully raised 5. But they always traded time for money in ways that I look at it and I still find myself, I had to stop myself from doing, because that's just how I grew up. But so, my parents were always proud. They would drive, 25 minutes out of the way to go to Costco for gas to save, 10 cents a gallon on gas. And so like, okay, cool. You just saved $3, but it took you 30 minutes round trip to save $3. How is that possibly a good use of your time? And I find myself doing that all the time, where I'll be at the grocery store and I'll be like debating in the aisle, oh, should I get this one, or oh, this one is it cheaper? And I'll be looking around like, oh, I wonder if I go to I'm really annoyed because there's this thing I buy at this butter. My kids, let me just complain about my kids.
You have a special butter?
There's like this special Irish butter that is like spreadable butter. And there's lots of spreadable butters, but they all have olive oil, and they only like the ones without olive oil. That's like pure. And somehow there's just this one company that does it. It's like $6.50 at Harris Teeter, where I normally grocery shop. But then the other day I discovered it was like $4 at Target. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a $2.50 saving. I'm like, should I make sure to go buy this butter at Target, when I'm doing my grocery shopping? I'm like, no, because the extra money I would save, the $2.50, is not worth the extra time to make that extra stop to Target, right? So that is a poor use of time. However, here's also the way you think about it, right? Is if I'm going to be in Target anyway, then how can I be more efficient? Maybe get into a habit of like, oh, I'm in Target, I know I'm here, I should buy this butter while I'm here. And that's actually a picked up efficiency. I know I'm only talking about $2.50, but these picked up efficiencies are key. The more efficient you can be with how you schedule your life. For example, I put meetings back to back all the time. That's the only way I do meetings. I hate scheduling a one-off meeting, because what happens if you have an hour-long meeting, well, then like the 45 minutes leading up to it, you're kind of like, well, I can't start something big now. And then it takes you like 30 minutes to get into something after. It becomes like a time suck. So I just do meetings back to back to back to back, and it just sucks all the time. But then it sucks time, and it sucks often. But then I'm just way more efficient with how I schedule my meetings. And so where can you find efficiencies in your day?
All right. So if you've got an entrepreneur in your office hours. They're coming into your office hours and they're sitting down and they're saying, I have got no time. My hair's falling out. I'm stressing out. And they've got some cash in the bank. It's just starting off. They're not hurting for money right now. They've got enough to where they have some things to spend on. What are the first 3 things that you would have an entrepreneur start spending money on today if it was you and your advice?
First thing would absolutely be to spend money on, meaningful SaaS tools. By that I mean a lot of early entrepreneurs, they kind of find hacky ways to deal with their email marketing. They'll use kind of the cheaper service where they got to do some extra work, or they'll have like 4 different free email accounts to do audio. And it's just like, no, spend money and buy that and spend the $20 a month subscription. So that's one thing that I'm still guilty of, is like, I don't want to spin up another Google Apps account, because that's another $10 a month. And it's like, no, just spin up the Google Apps account, right? It's $10 a month. And then number 2 would be to AI. Like, this is in 2025, I say this, but oh my gosh, start learning to create efficiencies with AI in your writing, even in your communication, your email. I can't tell you the number of times where someone's emailed and they say, hey, I'm giving a talk for something. And they say, hey, can you write up a blurb for this talk? And I sit down and, I used to sit down and it just winds up sucking up 30, 45 minutes in this email to write this paragraph long verb. Now what I do, I pop over to AI and say, hey, I need to give a talk about this, and you just kind of brain dump what it is. I don't think like how to write this clearly and concisely. I just brain dump it into AI. And it'll usually shoot me back a description that is, 85, 90% of what's there. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. And then I can just send that over to the person, and it winds up saving a ton of time, right? So, and AI does all these other efficiencies. But I was trying to come up with a quippy metaphor the other day, or quippy simile the other day in an email to someone. I was trying to compare, oddly enough, the irony is I was trying to compare how wildly messy my inbox is right now, and I wanted like a quippy simile because the person I was emailing I needed to sound funny for whatever reason. And I couldn't come up with it. I'm like, wait, why am I just sitting here wasting time trying to come up with a quippy simile? And then I just went over to AI and it gave me a great one. I'm like, cool, that's the little simile I want to use, or the analogy, I think is actually probably the word I'm looking for. Sure. So it's a weird form of efficiency, but it's a great form of efficiency. So that's going to be number 2, like get your pro ChatGPT version, or pay for ChatGPT and start using that is a great efficiency. And then the other efficiency, I guess, that I would tell entrepreneurs is to, it would really be into their personal life is to, I guess it's just as you said, stop trading time for money, right? So it's like, don't go to the gas station that's 20 minutes farther away, but it's going to save you 10 cents a gallon, right? Don't try to find the cheaper grocery store. Don't worry about going out to dinner, right? Like, the extra $15, $20 you're going to spend on going out to dinner versus eating at home, well, if it's going to take you an hour and a half to cook, unless you enjoy cooking with your family, stuff like that, then just fine. Go out to dinner that night if you don't feel like it, or if you're running late, right? Just start to understand that if you can save 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there by just paying for something, do it. That's with your lawn care. So I have lawn maintenance people come. It's not that I can't cut my grass. I have a very small plot of grass. But at the end of the day, if it takes me 3 hours on a Saturday and it takes them, I don't even care how much time it takes them. I would rather spend that 3 hours with my children than spend that 3 hours outside doing the lawn. So get rid of the home things that you shouldn't be doing. And so that gives you more time to do life things you want to do, as well as your entrepreneurial things.
So that's my number one thing that I would recommend to take off your list too, is the lawn care and the housekeeping stuff. And especially if you're cohabitating with somebody, because not only does doing that give you time back, but it also takes away the conflict that could potentially arise between two people cohabitating, that who's going to do what, when, is it getting done at the right frequencies, all that kind of stuff. So I think it also prevents some sort of calamity from happening, in the future or whatever. So definitely cleaning lady, cleaning person, yard person, let's go. Second thing that I would do is, and I know this is going to be controversial, but I would order your groceries and not actually go grocery shopping. And people are going to be appalled. I want to say right away, I am a cook. I love to cook. I love quality ingredients. I'm going to say that. I still order my food online, and let me tell you why. 90% of the time, they do a great job of picking out good produce and good food. There is that 10% of time when, just last week, I ordered something from Harris Teeter, and I said, give me the largest head of red leaf lettuce you can, and they gave me this little thing that's literally a handful of lettuce. And I was like, in what world is this enough lettuce for somebody to eat? It's not. So did I have to go rectify this problem afterwards? Yes. But if you think of how much time is taken by walking the aisles, trying to figure out where everything is, and going through checkout and whatever, I'll tell you what I do. I spend 15 minutes finding my cart online, and then I submit the order. I drive. When I'm getting ready to turn on the street, I hit I'm here. I pull in, pop my trunk, and they're already walking out with my stuff. So anyway, it saves a ton of time through each week by doing that, and for a very low margin of error. And then from a business item perspective, I like the idea of AI tools. I think personally, this is going to be unique to every professional, every entrepreneur out there. Think of the thing that is painful and hard for you to do. Do it a little while. Make sure that you understand the ins and outs of it and whatever. And if you decide it's not adding value to you and you don't like learning about it anymore and you're kind of done, I would outsource that thing. So one of our clients, doesn't like editing their social media videos, and they've done it a couple of times, they get it, and it's just not adding value to their lives. Find somebody on Upwork, outsource that, stop doing it. Train them, get them ready to go, and then get your hands off of it. Because at the end of the day, the biggest problem most entrepreneurs have that I have seen is they're really bad at hiring people. They don't know who to hire, but they're even worse at knowing when to hire that person. So it's critical that you're always asking yourself, do I need to do this, or can I offload this to somebody else on my team, or outsource it?
And I'm telling this as much to myself as to anyone listening, is that you've got to, it sucks to have to onboard someone and train someone. And so what happens when you're really busy, right? That's like, oh, I just don't have time to go through the process of training someone to get them on, because it slows you down for an X amount of time. But the incremental value afterwards, once they're trained in creating meaningful value, is enormous. I'm doing this right now in my content editing. I just spent 2 or 3 hours this afternoon working with a student who's going to be helping me with content editing. And it was just frustrating because I have so much work to do, and I'm sitting there just teaching her how to use like this editing platform, but I'm trying to remind myself that no, the reason I'm so stressed is because I have all this work to do. And if I can actually get her helping with some of this stuff, maybe that's going to take me a few weeks, but if I can get her helping me with it, oh my gosh, it's going to be a huge efficiency down the road.
The best leaders are the best coaches. Whenever you are training somebody, you have to be thinking that this is ultimate leverage. I am actually putting energy and time into this person right now, so that while I am sleeping, everybody wants a business that makes money while they're sleeping. While I am sleeping, this person can do other things. And I don't mean it literally while I'm sleeping, but while I'm doing other things, I've got a team of people who are doing things in the way that I know they need to be done. And that is serious leverage. And putting that time and effort into training them well, and into continue to training them and coaching them. It's not like it's done right up front. You have to keep doing it, and you have to keep course correcting, but eventually they're off and running and killing it. And that's where people and entrepreneurs and leaders get leverage down the road.
I'm totally going to steal that. While I'm sleeping doesn't mean while I'm not doing anything. It's while I'm sleeping means so I can go do more things that create more value. I've trained other people to do stuff for me. That's something I know I've screwed up for a long time in my entrepreneurial career. And as I've gotten older and more successful, I've learned to, the word is delegate, right? To bring other people on. It's hard. It just takes time. And you always think you can do it better than other people. And here's the thing. In a lot of cases, maybe you can, but does it matter if you can do it better if it's stopping you from doing other things you need to be doing, or that could be bringing more value? So that's number one. And number two is, if you're good at finding the right people and surrounding yourself with the right people, they might do it differently than you, but different doesn't mean worse. And often you'll be shocked to discover someone do something and be like, oh, that's actually a better way.
Amen. I mean, that's so important. And actually, that makes work fun. The fact that you have people on your team that do things differently than you, and the number of times that I've gone to seek advice from my team to be like, hey, I've got this problem. How should we do this thing? And there are 15 different examples that come out. And I'm like, wow, would never have thought of solving the problem that way. And actually, I love it. Go for it. Let's do it that way. Like, that to me is also some of the fun of entrepreneurship, is figuring out when people are going to do things differently. And I actually want to talk about that point. It is okay to do things just because you like to do them. Okay, so if you really like going grocery shopping, like I was saying, hey, just do that. Like, if it's zen for you and you love it, and you love looking at all the new things and touching the stuff and the people around and whatever, and that's great for you, hell yeah, go do that. You love editing videos and like ditzling around with that, fine, great, do that. Because guess what? Like, there aren't many of those things in a day-to-day business that you can actually do that are like, yes, I feel good. I'm getting in the flow while I'm doing this thing as an entrepreneur, because you're constantly putting out fires.
I was going to say that about grocery store. I go to the grocery store because I like it. That's one of my zen things. It's how I get my steps in, Chris.
I love that.
I'm always surprised the days I don't know if anyone else has this. The days I go to a grocery store, I look at my step counts on my phone. I'm like, wow, I hit my numbers today. What did I do? Oh, I went to a grocery store. Isn't that weird? It just tells you what like sedentary life I must live. I think that's a good way of putting it too. And I think you said, so find the things you don't like. So start with the things that you don't like and figure out how to outsource those things to someone. And because the world is filled with different people, and there's people who do like that stuff. and go find someone who does like it and watch how well they do it for you. And so even though you can't imagine someone else wanting to do it, the truth is I create a lot of social media videos, so I don't mind being in front of a camera. There's a lot of people who absolutely hate that, but they love being behind a camera and filming and editing. And to me, I'm like, oh, really? You wouldn't rather be in front of it? And like, no, they would much rather be behind. So find those people, partner with the people who are the yin to your yang, and watch magic happen.
Right.
This is
What? No, go for it.
just somewhere where I really screwed up for a lot of years with my co-founder from a lot of my earlier business. And if you're listening, I apologize. You're still one of my best friends. But we were childhood best friends, and we grew up and we both became software engineers. And we're building companies, and we always thought this was our competitive advantage. Is we're both software engineers who've been childhood best friends, and and this is why we're going to be successful entrepreneurs. And it was actually a huge thing that held us back for a long time. And it's because we were very similar, because we've been childhood best friends, and we were both doing the same profession. So we liked doing the same things and didn't like doing the same things. And so what happened in the business, right, is neither of us wanted to do certain things that had to get done, and we both spent a lot of time talking and fooling with like the building and the constructing and the coding, which is fine. Like, you need a product, but neither of us wanted to do sales and customer acquisition because that was the stuff we didn't like to do. And so when we're both yins or both yangs, or however you want to say it, it actually made us wildly inefficient. So you want to find people who like things that you don't, because those people are going to be the ones that help you build something amazing.
So work-life balance, then, if I'm to tie this off a little bit, sometimes it comes down to the hiring and the identification of the people that you should or could have in your business. And if you can get that right, then you're moving along. So use that burnout, that feeling that you're doing too much, you don't have enough work-life balance, to say, hey, where could I start offloading and bringing people into the business or into my personal life to start helping me with these things, I think is a key component of what we're talking about today, right? Like, at the end of the day.
And as we talk about it, I'm like, oh gosh, I need to be. I was just complaining before we got on this call about email and how my email is just overwhelmed. And it's like, oh, well, maybe that's something I should take care of by going out and outsourcing it. So you're right. You can find work-life balance. And so it's almost in the same way that making money while you sleep isn't the actual. We're misimagining what it's supposed to be. The same thing is with work-life balance. When you imagine work-life balance is some sort of grand, beautiful world in which you're an entrepreneur and you work a little, and then you go and you do wonderful things with your friends and your families because you're so zen. Like, that's not what work-life balance is. Work-life balance is learning how to use your resources as wisely as possible to get rid of the things that you don't want to do in an efficient way, so that you're able to accomplish more of the things that create meaningful value. And that's what ultimately frees up more time. You're never going to have enough time. No one's ever going to have enough time for relaxing on the beach with their family, and sipping pina coladas with billions of dollars in the bank. And so that's not what happens. And by the way, if you want to understand why this doesn't happen, think about all the successful billionaires you hear about, the Jeff Bezoses and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, whatever you think of them. This isn't a way on whether they're good people or bad people, but these are people who literally could just live on their island and do nothing all day. And do they live on their private island doing nothing all day? No, because they don't want to be. That's not how they're wired. That's not success to them. And my guess is, anyone listening to this, you wouldn't actually be happy if you had $1 billion in the bank and were just sitting on an island. If you had $1 billion in the bank, you'd be figuring out, how do you get 2 billion?
Yeah. I'd be Aaron, looking good, Billy Ray. Feeling good, Lewis. Right? Like, that's how Trading Places ends. That movie, that's so funny. That movie's so funny to me. And, they're just chilling on the beach, living the dream, having made the money. But yeah, when you've got that drive and you've got that energy, you don't want to put it down, because at the end of the day, I learned for myself, like, working is fun. And I actually enjoy the things that I do. And I was talking to a person who's a painter. He's been painting my house and my family's houses ever since I was a little kid. And, he's probably in his late 50s now, maybe his early 60s. And I asked him, I was like, hey man, when are you thinking about retiring? And he goes, my brother's thinking about retiring, but I love this. I'm going to be painting till I'm dead. And that's, I think, how a lot of people who have found a thing that they like to do feel about their life. All right. So one thing I want to throw at you here, okay? One thing
Can
I
I?
want to yeah, go through it.
Can
Go
you
through it.
put a pin in it? Because when another podcast I've done where I was interviewing all these successful entrepreneurs. There's this one, and for the life of me, I cannot remember his name, and it's crushing me. But he's like the billionaire, literally billionaire owner of. It's like a stock photography website. I forget which one it is. But yeah, so I'm talking to them, I'm interviewing this guy, and you know what he was doing? He was showing me. He's literally a billionaire. And this was during the crypto boom, and he was showing me like the mining rig he was building for this new like mining rig, this new crypto startup he was building on the side, right?
Wow.
And again, this guy could be doing whatever he wanted, and the thing he was nerding out on was that. And so again, just think about that for all you people listening to this. It's not like making your billions of dollars is going to suddenly like, okay, I'm done with wanting to be entrepreneurial. No, that's not how real entrepreneurs are. Real entrepreneurs don't stop. And you'll be going forever. So accept that and then just figure out how to go more efficiently. All right, into what you were going to say.
So I think work-life balance, when people are complaining about it, I think oftentimes it's two, maybe three things. Okay. So when people are complaining about work-life balance, I think one of the first things when I dig, it's they have some unexplored anxiety about their business or some part of their business that's broken that they don't want to put their attention on, and it's stressing them out, and they're calling that bad work-life balance. They're actually using anxiety or distaste in their business. They're not recognizing it, and they're calling that bad work-life balance. So I'd call your attention to those kind of things when you feel like really stressed out about your business. And a lot of times it comes down to either product market fit is off, meaning it's really hard to get customers, or you've got somebody working for you in your business that needs to go. Those are the two most common things that I see in that range. I'd say the second thing with work-life balance is a lot of people will start talking about it when they're ignoring a passion that lights their soul on fire. And that is very, very important to recognize, because if you do not do those things, you will be sick. I don't mean necessarily physically, but sure, maybe physically, mentally, spiritually, wherever that will manifest itself, it will be bad. It will make you sick. So if you're ignoring that passion, like one of mine is writing poetry and singing and playing guitar, if I ignore that, I just don't feel well. And I have to do those things. And here's the great thing. You can slice those things in between work. You don't actually have to take a nap to recharge. You can do your passion, and that will recharge you. And I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of people don't think about it that way. But doing your passion will recharge you, just like sleep will. And that's the third thing that I think a lot of people talk about with work-life balance that they're not necessarily paying attention to, is they're not getting enough sleep. Because what they're doing is they're going home, they're going to bed, but what are they doing? They're ruminating on the problem all night long. They're waking themselves up. They're not sleeping well. And so it perpetuates itself into this, oh, I feel tired, and oh, I'm sluggish, because you actually are physically tired and should be getting more sleep. And there was a person I used to work for, and I love this. I took this from him. He used to say, you know, Chris, what I do when I go home? He goes, I imagine that my work is a big rucksack. And when I get ready to go to bed, I take that rucksack off and I put it next to the bed, and I tell myself, it'll be there when I wake up. And he goes, you know what? I sleep like a baby. And I think we all practice that, like putting it down when we're going to bed and saying, hey, I'm going to sleep well. I'm not going to think about this tonight, because guess what? There's tomorrow, and I can think about it tomorrow. That's a gift for future Chris. I think we'd all do way better as entrepreneurs. Easier said than done, though, right?
It is easier said than done, but it's much needed advice. I'm ruminating on this idea of, there's two times I feel stressed in my entrepreneurial existence. One time is the type of stress that I feel is it's eustress. It's good, right? All stress isn't bad. There's good stress and bad stress, and like a kind of eustress, positive stress. When it feels like there is so much opportunity for whatever it is that I'm working on, and I'm just not capturing it fast enough. I just want to go after it more, and so I stay up late, I work hard. It's happening, and I want to go after it. And that's the kind of stress. But and never in that world, when those moments in my entrepreneurial life are happening, am I thinking work-life balance? I'm thinking, gosh, how do I'm excited, and I just want to get more of it done. But work-life balance, you're right. Whenever I'm ruminating on, I wish I had more time for X, Y, Z, other things that weren't this, you're right. It's an indicator that there's something wrong, that, I don't actually have a good product market fit, or, my company is failing, is usually what work-life balance is indicating to me, because it's me not wanting to admit that this is a problem. So I think that's just something, I don't know. Am I off base there?
No,
I can be super, yeah.
I think that's right. It's work-life balance is this kind of random thing that we all feel comfortable talking about, because it's like, everybody just kind of nods their head when they're like, yeah, I know work-life balance, it's a thing. But nobody actually knows what work-life balance means. And I think that's what we've done throughout this episode today is talk, we started it off by asking, is work-life balance good for entrepreneurs? What happens is it has to be defined about what we're talking about, and we feel like things are in balance as entrepreneurs. That's probably a good indicator that things are as they should be in some way or another. It doesn't mean that you're able, you're working 20 hours a week. Maybe it does, but it could mean you're working 80 hours a week and loving it the whole time. But if things feel like they're in balance, I actually am coming around to the side to say, actually, work-life balance is good for entrepreneurs, because really work-life balance and feeling one way or another about it is more of an indicator about things that are not working well, either in your business life or in your personal life, that need to be looked at more closely.
Everyone misunderstands work-life balance. That's the takeaway I've come to in this conversation. I didn't realize until we had this conversation. I've been totally misunderstanding. I think everyone thinks work-life balance means how do you, only spend less time on your startup and more time on your family, your hobbies, or whatever it is. And that's not what it means. You're right. There should be work-life balance in startups. Work-life balance is personal satisfaction with the things that you're doing. And if you don't have that balance, don't hide it in this, I don't have the right amount of hours. That's not what it means. It means there's something wrong and you need to get to the bottom of what's wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel profound. All right.
So
Speaking
we wrap
of which,
up?
yeah, we got work to do. People listening to this probably got work to do.
Yeah, it's late here. We got it. It's 9:30, but we're doing this because we love it. Killing it.
We okay it. I mean, we met it.
Yeah, we met it. We're feeling pretty good. Well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been episode 11 of ThoughtWave, where we discuss tips, tricks, and hacks for audience builders, entrepreneurs, and people who just want to do things. Please like, share, send this to people you think this would benefit, because people got to know. People need to live in balance, right?